Hey everybody, this is Tony Upper Class Eagles. I hope you're having a great day. Uh, each season with the team that you have, there's a lot of things that you want to work on to help your team improve and have success over the course of the year. And there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, should be worked on, or required to help players develop and your team to have success. One thing that you'll hear coaches always talk about being a major issue with the players on their team, and something that makes a huge impact in terms of a team's level and each individual player's level on the field, is their ability to communicate. And I know that's said a lot and you hear that all the time, like I said, but what does that really mean, and how are we helping players communicate with each other without just telling them, hey, you have to talk more, hey, tell them something, give them instructions. We have to not just tell players that they need to communicate more, but it's a process like anything. If you think about communication and how good anyone really is at it, whether in our personal lives, at work, or anything like that, how well does everyone really communicate with each other? How skillful are people at communicating effectively? Not just talking, but really effectively communicating. So often we're telling young kids that they need to communicate better on the field, but really how are they going to do that? What does that really look like? So as coaches, we have to help coach that aspect of the game too, in terms of communication on the field. Because often when we say, hey, we want you to communicate more for the next 30 seconds of whatever activity you're doing or game, you start hearing every player yelling ball, ball, ball a little bit more, and those type of things. And it's not overly effective. They're helping, they're doing a little more than they were before, which is great, but they're not really communicating. So, first, what do we really want them to do by communicating? It's, not just asking for the ball, but it's, giving instructions to teammates, telling them if they have space, time, turn, when a ball's played to them. It's also encouragement, throughout the game. If they see a player, have, a bad couple minutes or make a couple mistakes, how quick are the players on the field to help encourage them? Hey, you'll get it next time. I keep working hard. You'll get it. Keep going. You'll get the next one. How good are players at communicating with each other about what's going on in the game? Hey, they're playing it long over the top every time. We have to drop off. They added another forward up front. We have to adjust. Are players on the field communicating that way with each other? Hey, we're too far apart. They keep splitting us. Every time they get the ball, we need to be a little more connected. If you can get players start communicating like that on the field, then your team is going to be at a completely different level. But that takes time. It takes deliberate practice. It takes the coaches making a part of their training and the way training operates that, it's not just working on a technical or tactical activity, but also that the communication aspect of the game is something that's very much focused on. The one great way to do that as coaches, especially young teams, is to mirror it. I would often step on the field and play with the players, and in different roles on the field, whether it's goalkeeper or defender or central midfield player or somebody up front. I would step on the field and play and communicate how I would as a player on the field, giving instructions to the players around me, talking off the ball, helping make players make corrections and things like that about what's going on in the game, strategizing, those type of things. And it kind of starts, they can hear how you're talking, and it gives them ideas and shows them how it helps them as players playing around you, and how your information that you're providing, helps them be successful, not just on the ball, but off it. But then it kind of really gives them ideas, and you're not just telling them to communicate, but they are hearing great examples of, what that sounds like. So those are, for me, one of the best ways to do it as a coach, working especially with younger players or even older players. If your older teams are having trouble with it, is not just ask them to do it, but mirror it. Step on the field and show them what that looks like. The other side of it is sometimes you'll have a couple players that maybe communicate a lot, and sometimes when everyone doesn't know how to communicate, when you have one or two players who talk a lot on the field, um, other players don't know how to deal with it, and how to accept it. And sometimes the players who are talking maybe are not doing it the best way, and often those players are just discouraged from doing it. Versus taking someone who's willing to communicate and helping them learn how to more effectively do it with the players around them. So often young players and and like maybe older players as well, if something's said, they can be offended by it, or it ruffles feathers, or parents don't like it of what's said on the field. But when a team steps on the field, you need all players communicating honestly with each other, consistently with each other, and sometimes that's not always. Some things aren't always fun to hear, but it needs to be said, whether it's from the coach or the other players on the field. If it's done the right way, though, it shouldn't be meant to hurt a player's feelings or discourage them, but instead empower them and encourage them to do better as they're playing. So when you have players like that, it's very critical for the coach to help those players learn how to do it very effectively in the right way, because then you have someone on the field who's a great example, and then other players you can encourage to do some communicate in a very similar way. So obviously we know communication is important, so that's not earth shattering or anything like that. But I think we sometimes just want it to happen as coaches and just want players to communicate more just by asking for it. And as we all know, that just asking somebody to communicate more doesn't usually mean that they're going to communicate more, or more importantly, more effectively. So this season with your team, that's a great way to help your team communicate more effectively and help them raise their level as a group and individually. Is mirror it for them. Don't just ask them how to do it, and really make communication a key element of every practice session, is something you're purposefully working on with the players, and not just something you're asking them to do randomly when the field gets quiet.